The bank card fell from my shaking hands onto the cold kitchen floor. The number on the screen was so big, I had to count the zeros 3 times. $8 million. $8 million. My phone was still buzzing with angry messages from Mom and Dad. "You're not our daughter anymore." Dad's last text said, "Don't ever come back home." They had just thrown me out of the house like I was garbage. All because I told them I wanted to be a writer instead of a doctor. But they didn't know my secret. They didn't know that while they were calling me a failure, I was already richer than they could ever dream of being. 3 hours earlier, I had been sitting at our family dinner table, my hands sweating as I held the letter that would change everything. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Chen, were eating their soup and talking about my future like I wasn't even there. "Emily will start medical school next year," Mom said to Dad, not looking at me. "She'll make us proud finally. Maybe then the neighbors will stop laughing at us." My heart was beating so fast I thought it might jump out of my chest. I had been hiding who I really was for so long. Every night after they went to bed, I would sneak to my room and write stories on my old laptop. I would post them online, and people all over the world would read them. But my parents thought I was just doing homework. "Mom, Dad," I said in a tiny voice, "I need to tell you something." Dad looked up from his soup with angry eyes. He always looked at me like I had done something wrong, even when I hadn't. "What now, Emily? Did you get bad grades again?" "No, it's not about grades," I said. My voice was shaking. "I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a writer." The spoon fell out of Mom's hand and made a loud clang on her bowl. Dad's face turned red like a tomato. The room became so quiet, I could hear my own heart beating. "A writer," Mom whispered, like I had said a bad word. "You want to write silly stories instead of saving people's lives?" "My stories aren't silly," I said, trying to be brave. "People love them. They make people happy and—" "Enough!" Dad slammed his hand on the table so hard that all the dishes jumped. "I work 3 jobs every day to pay for your school. Your mother cleans offices until midnight so you can have a future. And you want to waste it all on stupid stories?" Tears started rolling down my face. "Dad, please listen." "No, you listen," he said, standing up and pointing at me. "You will go to medical school. You will become a doctor. That's final. I don't want to hear about writing ever again." But I couldn't give up. This was my dream, my life. I pulled out the letter I had been hiding in my pocket. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold it. "Dad, Mom, there's something you need to know," I said. "I've been writing stories online for 2 years, and people pay to read them. I make money from my writing." Dad laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was mean and cold. "How much money could you possibly make from stories? $10? $20? That's nothing." "It's not nothing," I whispered. "Last month I made more money than both of you together." Mum gasped. Dad's face went from red to white. "That's impossible." "You're lying." "I'm not lying," I said, holding up my phone. "I have the proof right here. My stories have millions of readers. Companies pay me to write for them. I have contracts worth— "I don't care if you made $100, Dad shouted. "It won't last. Stories are not a real job. What will you do when nobody wants to read your silly writing anymore? You'll be poor and homeless." "But Dad—" I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. Your daughter is becoming just like your lazy brother, Dad said to Mum. Always dreaming, never working hard. This is your fault for being too soft on her. Mum's eyes filled with tears, but not because she felt sorry for me. She was angry too. Emily, how could you embarrass us like this? What will we tell our friends? What will we tell Grandma and Grandpa? They saved money their whole lives so you could become a doctor. I can pay them back, I cried. I can pay everyone back. I make enough money to— Stop lying! Dad screamed so loud that our neighbor's dog started barking. You're just a selfish little girl who doesn't care about family! I felt like my heart was breaking into a million pieces. These were supposed to be my parents. They were supposed to love me and support me. But all they cared about was what other people would think. I'm not lying, I said through my tears. I can show you the money in my bank account right now. Dad grabbed my phone and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. No more lies. No more excuses. You will study medicine or you will get out of this house. You don't mean that, I whispered. I'm your daughter. Mum stood up and her voice was colder than ice. A real daughter listens to her parents. A real daughter cares about her family's honor. You're not our daughter anymore. But Mum, pack your things, Dad said. I want you out of this house in 1 hour, and don't come back until you come to your senses. I ran to my room and threw my clothes into a bag. My laptop, my notebook full of story ideas, my favorite pen that Grandma gave me for my birthday. I could hear Mom and Dad talking downstairs. She'll come back, Mom was saying. When she gets hungry and realizes she can't survive on her silly stories, she'll come back and apologize. If she comes back, she better be ready to go to medical school, Dad replied. I won't have a failure for a daughter. Failure. That word hit me like a punch in the stomach. They thought I was a failure. They didn't even want to see the proof of my success. As I walked out the front door with my bag, Dad called after me. Don't call us until you're ready to be a real daughter. The door slammed behind me, and I was alone on the street. I walked to the park where I used to play when I was little and sat on a bench. That's when I took out my backup phone and checked my bank account. $8 million. I had been keeping it secret for so long, waiting for the right moment to tell them. My online stories had become so popular that big movie companies wanted to buy them. Book companies wanted to publish them. I had more money than I knew what to do with. But my parents didn't care. They threw me away without even listening. I looked at the number on my phone screen again. $8 million. I was rich. I was successful. I was living my dream. So why did I feel so empty inside? The sun was starting to set, and I had nowhere to go. My parents thought I would come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. They thought I would fail without them. But I had a secret they didn't know about. And tomorrow, everything would change in a way they never expected. As I sat alone on that park bench, watching the stars come out, I made a decision that would shock everyone who knew me. But first, I had a phone call to make. A phone call that would change my life forever. My phone rang. The number on the screen made my heart skip a beat. It was the call I had been waiting for. The call that would make me choose between my family and my dreams. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello, Emily, the voice on the other end said. We need to talk. Ms. Rodriguez from Rainbow Entertainment, the voice said. I have news that will change your life. We want to buy all your stories for $50 million. I almost dropped my phone. $50 million? I thought 8 million was a lot of money, but 50 million was more than I could even imagine. But there's one problem, Ms. Rodriguez continued. We need you to come to Hollywood tomorrow for the signing, and we need to announce it to the world. Your secret life as a writer will be front-page news everywhere. My stomach felt like it was full of butterflies. Everywhere? You mean my parents will see it? Emily, honey, the whole world will know your name by tomorrow night. You'll be the youngest millionaire writer in history. Are you ready for that? I looked around the empty park. Just a few hours ago, I was nobody to my parents. A failure, a disappointment. Tomorrow, I could be famous and richer than they ever dreamed. I need to think about it, I whispered. You have until midnight to decide, Ms. Rodriguez said. This offer won't wait forever. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Part of me wanted to call Mom and Dad and tell them about the $50 million. Maybe then they would see that I wasn't a failure. Maybe then they would love me again. But another part of me was still hurt and angry. They threw me away like garbage without even listening to me. Why should I give them another chance? I decided to walk around town while I thought about it. As I passed by my old school, I saw Mrs. Patterson, my favorite teacher, locking up her classroom. Emily? She called out. What are you doing out so late? I couldn't help it. I started crying right there on the sidewalk. Mrs. Patterson ran over and gave me a big hug. Oh, sweetie, what's wrong? I told her everything. About my writing, about the money, about my parents throwing me out, about the Hollywood offer. Mrs. Patterson listened to every word without saying anything mean or calling me a liar. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Emily, she finally said, do you remember the story you wrote in my class about the little bird? I nodded. It was about a baby bird whose mother pushed her out of the nest because she wanted to fly in different directions than the other birds. What happened to that little bird in your story? Mrs. Patterson asked. She learned to fly on her own, I said, and she found other birds who loved her for who she really was. Mrs. Patterson smiled. Sometimes parents think they know what's best, but they can't see the beautiful person their child really is. That doesn't mean you're bad or wrong. It means you're special in a way they don't understand yet. But they hate me now, I cried. They don't hate you, sweetie. They're scared. Your dad works so hard because he's afraid of being poor. Your mom wants you to be a doctor because she thinks it's the only way you'll be safe. They love you, but they're showing it in the wrong way. Then why does it hurt so much? I asked. Because love is supposed to make you feel safe and happy, not scared and sad. But sometimes people who love us don't know how to do it right. Mrs. Patterson helped me understand something important. My parents weren't evil people. They were just scared people who didn't know how to love me the way I needed to be loved. But that didn't mean I had to keep letting them hurt me. I made my decision. I called Ms. Rodriguez back. I'll take the deal, I said. But I have one request. I want to do something special with some of the money. The next morning, I was on a plane to Hollywood. By that afternoon, I had signed the biggest book and movie deal in history. The news was everywhere. On TV, on the internet, in newspapers. Local girl becomes youngest millionaire author, the headline said. Small town writer signs, 50 million deal. My phone started ringing with calls from reporters and TV shows. Everyone wanted to interview me. But there was one call I was waiting for. One call that never came. Mum and Dad didn't call. I spent 3 days in Hollywood, meeting with movie directors and book publishers. Everyone was so nice to me. They treated me like I was important and smart. They listened to my ideas and asked for my opinions. It felt amazing, but also lonely. I kept thinking about Mom and Dad. Had they seen the news? Did they know that their failure daughter was now famous around the world? On my 4th day in Hollywood, I got a call from my neighbor, Mrs. Kim. "Emily, honey, I think you should know what's happening at home," she said in a worried voice. My heart started beating fast. "What's happening? Are Mom and Dad okay?" They're not okay, sweetie. When the news came out about your success, they were shocked. Your dad hasn't gone to work in 3 days. He just sits on the porch staring at nothing. Your mom cries all the time. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Are they sick? No, honey. They're ashamed. The whole town is talking about how they threw out their millionaire daughter. People are saying mean things about them. Your dad lost 2 of his jobs because his bosses saw the news and said they didn't want to work with someone who would hurt their own child. My hands started shaking. I didn't want my parents to lose their jobs. I didn't want them to be hurt, even though they had hurt me. "There's more," Mrs. Kim said quietly. "Your grandmother is very sick. She saw the news on TV and had a heart attack. She's in the hospital asking for you." "Grandma had a heart attack?" I cried. "Is she going to be okay?" "The doctors don't know. She keeps saying she wants to see you before." Mrs. Kim couldn't finish the sentence, but I knew what she meant. Grandma might die, and it might be my fault. I hung up the phone and ran to my hotel room. I looked at myself in the mirror. I was wearing expensive clothes and jewelry that the movie company had bought for me. I was rich and famous and successful. But my family was falling apart, and my grandmother might die thinking I didn't love her. I had to make a choice. I could stay in Hollywood and enjoy my new life, or I could go home and face my parents. The problem was, I wasn't sure if going home would make things better or worse. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Grandma in the hospital and Mom and Dad sitting at home, probably wishing they had never had a daughter like me. At 3 a.m., there was a knock on my hotel room door. I opened it and saw a man in a suit holding an envelope. "Miss Chen, I have an urgent message for you." I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter that made my blood turn cold. "Emily, if you don't come home in 24 hours, you'll never see your grandmother alive again. But if you do come home, you might not like what you find. Your parents have made a decision that will shock you. Choose wisely. A friend." Who would send me such a scary letter? What decision had my parents made? And why did I only have 24 hours? I looked at the clock. It was 3:17 a.m. In less than 24 hours, something terrible was going to happen, and I was the only one who could stop it. But first, I had to figure out who sent this letter and what my parents were planning to do. I didn't sleep at all that night. At 6 a.m., I was on the first plane home. During the whole flight, I kept staring at that scary letter. A friend. Who could it be? And what did they mean about my parents making a shocking decision? When the plane landed, I took a taxi straight to the hospital to see Grandma. My heart was beating so fast I thought I might faint. What if I was too late? What if she had already died, thinking I didn't love her? I ran through the hospital hallways until I found her room. When I opened the door, I saw her lying in bed, with tubes and machines all around her. She looked so small and weak. "Grandma?" I whispered. Her eyes opened slowly, and when she saw me, she started crying. "My beautiful granddaughter," she said, in a voice so soft I could barely hear it. "You came home." I ran to her bed and hugged her carefully. "I'm so sorry, Grandma. I never wanted you to get hurt because of me." "Silly girl," she said, touching my face with her shaky hand. "I'm not hurt because of you. I'm hurt because I'm proud of you and sad at the same time." "What do you mean?" Grandma took a deep breath. "I read about your success in the newspaper. $50 million. My granddaughter is more successful than I ever dreamed. But then I thought about how your parents threw you away, and my heart broke." "Grandma, let me finish," she said. "I need to tell you something important before it's too late. Your parents, they're not bad people, but they're about to do something very stupid because they're ashamed." My stomach felt sick. "What are they going to do?" "They're planning to sell our family house and leave town tonight," Grandma whispered. "They think everyone hates them now. They think it's better if they just disappear." "Leave town? But this is their home. Where will they go?" "I don't know. They won't tell me. But Emily, if they leave tonight, you might never see them again." I felt like the whole world was spinning around me. My parents were going to run away because they were embarrassed? Because people in town were being mean to them? "There's more," Grandma said. "Your father took out a big loan on the house to pay for your college. If they sell the house quickly, they won't get enough money to pay back the loan. They'll lose everything and still owe money to the bank." "But I can help them. I have money now." Grandma shook her head. "They're too proud to take help from you. They think they don't deserve it after how they treated you." "That's crazy. They're my parents." "I know, sweetie. That's why you have to stop them. But you only have a few hours before they're gone forever." I kissed Grandma's forehead and promised I would fix everything. Then I ran out of the hospital and drove to my family's house as fast as I could. When I got there, I saw Dad loading boxes into a moving truck. Mom was crying as she packed dishes into newspaper. They both looked so sad and tired. I took a deep breath and walked up to them. "Mom? Dad?" They both froze when they saw me. Dad dropped the box he was carrying, and Mom's mouth fell open. "Emily?" Mom whispered. "What are you doing here?" "I came home because I heard you were leaving." Dad's face turned red, but not from anger this time. He looked embarrassed and ashamed. We didn't think you'd want to see us again." "Why would you think that?" "Because we were horrible to you," Mom said, starting to cry again. "We saw the news. We saw how successful you are. And we realized we threw away the most amazing daughter in the world." "You didn't throw me away," I said. "I'm still here." Dad shook his head. "No, Emily. We don't deserve to be your parents. Look what we did to you. You're a millionaire, and we treated you like garbage. The whole town is talking about what terrible parents we are, and they're right." "The whole town is wrong," I said. "You're not terrible parents. You're scared parents who made a mistake." "A mistake?" Dad laughed, but it was a sad laugh. "We threw our own daughter out of the house. We called her a failure when she was more successful than we could ever imagine. That's not a mistake, Emily. That's unforgivable. I could see that my parents were in so much pain. They thought they were protecting me by leaving town. But really, they were just running away from their shame. Dad, Mom, can I tell you something? Can I tell you something? They both nodded, still looking like they wanted to hide. Do you know why I never told you about the money? Because you knew we wouldn't believe you, Mom said quietly. No, I didn't tell you because I was scared you would only love me for the money, not for who I really am. Dad's eyes got wide. What? I wanted you to be proud of me for being a good writer, not for being rich. I wanted you to love me for following my dreams, not for making money. But you never gave me a chance to show you who I really was. Mom put her hand over her mouth. Oh, Emily, we never asked about your writing. We never read your stories. That's all I ever wanted, I said, tears rolling down my face. I just wanted you to care about what made me happy. Dad sat down on the steps of our house and put his head in his hands. We were so worried about you having a safe job and making money that we never asked if you were happy. We were terrible parents. You weren't terrible, I said, sitting down next to him. You were loving parents who showed love in the wrong way. You worked 3 jobs because you loved me. You wanted me to be a doctor because you thought it would keep me safe. But you forgot to ask what would make me happy. Can you ever forgive us? Mum asked, crying so hard she could barely talk. I stood up and hugged both of them tight. There's nothing to forgive. You're my parents. I love you no matter what. We all cried together for a long time. Then Dad pulled away and looked at me seriously. Emily, even if you forgive us, we still have to leave town. We lost our jobs. People think we're bad parents. And we owe so much money on the house that we'll never be able to pay it back. I smiled. What if I told you that you don't have to worry about money anymore? Emily, we can't take your money, Mom said. It wouldn't be right. You're not taking my money, I said. You're letting your daughter help her family, the same way you helped me my whole life. I pulled out my phone and showed them my bank account. When they saw the numbers, they both gasped. With this money, I can pay off the house loan, help you start new jobs, and we can all live happily together. But only if you promise me one thing. What? Dad asked. Promise me you'll read my stories. Promise me you'll try to understand who I really am, not just who you want me to be. Mum started crying again, but this time they were happy tears. I promise. I want to read every single story you've ever written. Me too, Dad said. And Emily, I'm sorry it took almost losing you to realize how amazing you are. Just then, Mrs. Kim came running over from next door. Emily, thank goodness you're here. I was so worried about your parents. Mrs. Kim, I said, were you the one who sent me that letter in Hollywood? She looked embarrassed. I was so scared your parents would leave before you could come home. I didn't know what else to do. I hugged her tight. Thank you. You saved my family. That evening, we all went to the hospital to see Grandma together. When she saw us walking in holding hands, her face lit up like the sun. My family, she whispered. All together again. We're never letting each other go again, I said. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. I used my money to pay off all of Mom and Dad's debts. I bought them a new house with a big room where I could write my stories. Dad started his own business, and Mom went back to school to study something she had always wanted to learn: art. Most importantly, My parents read every single story I had ever written. They cried when they read the sad ones, and laughed at the funny ones. They finally understood that their daughter wasn't just successful, she was talented and creative and special. "I can't believe we almost missed out on knowing the real you," Mum said one night, as we sat together reading my latest story. "But you didn't miss out," I said. "You're here now, and that's all that matters." Dad looked up from the story he was reading. "Emily, I have something to tell you." "What?" "I've been writing stories too. About our family. About how we almost lost the most important thing in our lives because we were too scared to listen." I started crying happy tears. "Really?" "Really. And I was wondering, maybe you could teach me how to be a better writer." "I would love that, Dad." 6 months later, my parents came with me to Hollywood for the movie premiere of my first story. As we walked down the red carpet together, reporters shouted questions at us. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, how does it feel to have the most successful young writer in the world as your daughter?" Dad smiled and put his arm around me. "It feels like we're the luckiest parents in the world. Not because our daughter is rich or famous, but because she's kind and brave and never gave up on us, even when we gave up on her. We're proud of her for following her dreams," Mom added. "And we're sorry it took us so long to see how amazing those dreams really were." That night, as we watched my story come to life on the big screen, I realized something important. The money and fame were nice, but they weren't the most valuable things I had gained. The most valuable thing was getting my family back and teaching them to love me for who I really was, not who they thought I should be. And the best part? Grandma was there with us, healthy and happy, getting to see her granddaughter's dreams come true. Sometimes the people who love us the most are also the people who hurt us the most, because they're scared of losing us. But if we're brave enough to keep loving them anyway, sometimes we can teach them how to love us better. My parents and I learned that success isn't just about money or having a safe job. Real success is being true to yourself and having people who love you for exactly who you are. And now, every night before bed, instead of hiding in my room to write alone, I write stories with my dad, while Mum draws pictures to go with them. We're creating new stories together. Stories about forgiveness, about second chances, and about how love can heal even the deepest hurts. The end. 1 year later, my parents' story about our family became a best-selling book too. We donated half of all our money to help other families who were struggling to understand each other. And Grandma? She became the most famous grandmother in the world, always telling reporters, "I knew my granddaughter was special. I just had to help her parents see it too." If this story of family, forgiveness, and finding your worth hit you right in the feels, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Remember, your dreams are valid, your voice matters, and sometimes the biggest success is teaching the people you love how to love you back. Until next time, keep chasing those dreams. Bye for now.